everyone, it's Kate Boyd again from Kate Boyd Cheerleading, and today I'm going to help you figure out how to sort of decipher your score sheets and make your routine to where it fits a score sheet and can really max out the amount of points that you can get for different segments of the score sheet. So what I have here on the screen that you can see is the UCA Cheer judging sheet. Now this is last year's, but I don't expect that it would have changed all that much from year to year. So, but at least through this you can kind of get an idea of what they're looking for. So what I'll be doing today is going through the cheer judging sheet as well as the music judging sheet. So this is helpful if you're a school team. But even the music judging sheet is probably going to be kind of helpful for those of you who are all-star coaches. So stick around for a little bit later and you'll get some great information that you need as well. So you'll see here it's got the normal stuff, tells you so they can keep track of which team is up and which team is doing what. And what they're really looking for in cheers is that they are effective for leading a crowd and that you use skills and other props well. So as you can see, the very first category is crowd leading, and it's worth a total of 15 points, this whole section. So you can see crowd effective material. That means that your cheer has the opportunity for you to lead the crowd and not just for you to show off, as well as just using all that you have, that you're using your incorps well, although that's kind of in the next one. So it's mostly about the cheer that you're using here, making sure that there are opportunities to actually lead the crowd and not just perform. And then there is the use of motions to lead the crowd. So this has to do with your creativity, a little bit of choreography, and just making sure that your motions go with the cheer and help to direct the crowd to cheer with you appropriately, or at least at the appropriate junctions. So that's 15 points total. Your material is worth 10, which is more than anything else on this page. So what's most important is that you get a good cheer that has good placements for leading the crowd. So next you have your incorporations. And this is, incorporations just means incorporating your skills into a cheer. So you've got your jumps and tumbling and stunts and any other things that you might use to lead a crowd. So you have to use, so you can work those in ways that are effective for leading your crowd. For example, if you have a B, H, S as your crowd-led portion, then have some back handsprings, go B, H, S, or some stunts, push up, B, H, S, and people will be able to follow it really easily. So be sure that you use your skills appropriately to lead the crowd. I will have this one caveat though. If you have so many skills in there that your team is unable to really cheer, or it's just too busy and too distracting, then you could lose some points here. So you want to make sure that you use your skills, but that you're also really using them, again, not just to show off, but also to effectively lead a crowd. The key word being effective. So that's worth 5 points. Then you have the use of signs or palms or megaphones. These can be really helpful in using in leading a crowd. And the fact that it's worth 5 points mean that you probably ought to incorporate signs, palms, and or megaphones. So if you have a couple of people who are really loud, who can use a megaphone at the front, signs are great ways to lead a crowd, especially if you've got some stunters. Make sure that you're using those safely and appropriately. You can consult your rules for those kinds of things. So I would definitely encourage signs because it really helps. Sometimes people can't totally understand what you're saying, and so to have the sign there to help lead them is super helpful. And then palms. If you've got palms and you've got like maybe a red palm and a white palm, and you can say, go red, go white, or even just using them creatively to lead your crowd can be good. So make sure that you use some of that if it's on your score sheet. And lastly, they'll judge you on the execution. So you'll want to make sure that not only do you do these things, but you do them well. So don't just incorporate a stunt for the heck of it. Incorporate a stunt that you can do and do well and that will effectively lead your crowd. Same with signs or palms or megaphones. There are ways to do and not do these things. So make sure that you're doing them right. And then at the end, you get 5 extra points just for them to give their overall impression. So that has a lot to do with choreography and voice and just the general execution. If it was interesting and crowd-pleasing, then you'll probably max out the points there. So the total amount of points that you could get on this page was 35, but remember, the biggest thing was your material. So your cheer or your chant needs to be effective, and everything else was worth about the same. So if it's listed on the score sheet, you want to make sure that you incorporate something that's on the score sheet. You don't want to give them a chance to count anything down. Okay, so that's the cheer one. Now we're going to go and look at the music judging sheet, which is just below it. I'm sorry, I'm scrolling. It's kind of fast. So here you go. Again, it's just to show you, to help them keep track of who's who and what's what. So in your music division or even your music portion, you're going to have opportunity to do a lot more skills and a lot less talking. So you'll see here there's a bunch of different skills categories listed. You've got dance, jumps, group tumbling, pyramids, partner stunts. Okay, so that's a lot. So let's start with partner stunts. Partner stunts are the stunts done in individual stunt groups. So they don't have to be connected. They just need to be done. And so they'll probably be judging. They're judging on execution and difficulty. So execution is how well you do what you've chosen to do. Is it clean? Were there any wobbles or falls? How does it look when it's up there? Does it look safe? You don't want to do something that looks scary, so you want to make sure that that's good. And then you have your difficulty score, which is how difficult is what you're doing. And so you can make things more difficult by adding transitional elements or just doing more difficult stunts like your basket tosses, your liberty variations, lots of things that spin or flip. So really just kind of look at your rules, determine what you can do that's the most difficult, but make sure that you can do it well, because these are both worth 10 points, and that's pretty much, the biggest segments on there are 10 points. So you want to make sure that you're doing all of it and doing it well. If you have a question, whether it should be execution or difficulty, I would always say go for execution, because that goes towards your overall effect score. If you do something really difficult but it's clearly out of your league and it's just not done well and you can't do it, it's gonna leave a bad impression. So you would rather do something a little bit simpler and do it well to have that good impression stuck within the judges' minds. So your next segment is pyramids. Pyramids are different from partner stunts in that they connect to each other. So there has to be a portion, at least one portion of this that connects together. So it can be a completely different segment of your music portion. I like to split up partner stunts and pyramids just because it's easier for the girls. It gives them a little bit of a chance to do something else and not just be wearing out their muscles for a whole minute of your routine. That's a long time. So your pyramid needs to connect at some point. And nowadays the big things are release pyramids where they connect for a lot longer because they have to. So I would suggest that you really hit up YouTube and find some really great looking stuff there. So your biggest score here in pyramids is going to be execution, which means you have to do it well, whatever you do. The second thing there, again, is difficulty. They're going to be looking for how difficult everything is. So you want to make sure that, yes, you pick things that are difficult, but you also want to sort of be aware of the musicality, so knowing what your music does and making sure that you complement that. You also want kind of a lot of things going on. You don't want a lot of dead time in a pyramid sequence if you can help it. If you've got, 2 or 3 groups, have different groups doing different things at different times, just to kind of keep things interesting. It also adds to the difficulty score, because you're just watching things go and go and go. So even if they're not super difficult things, having more things going on is better. I just use the word things a lot, but it's true. You want to have portions, obviously, where they're doing the same thing because they have to connect and all hit at the same time. But if you can add a little bit of variety in there, then you'll probably get a little more, you can probably max out the difficulty score a lot easier. But again, execution is worth more here, so make sure that you can do it. If simpler is easier and there's a little bit of dead time and you do it a lot better, then add in those extra counts. Give yourself the breathing room. Take out one of the show and goes. Take out something. Give yourself the time that you need, because it's clear here. It's worth twice as much of the difficulty to have good execution. So your next section then is group tumbling. Notice it doesn't just say tumbling, it says group tumbling. So it's not just your one girl who has her back handspring doing her back handspring. Yes, absolutely add that if she has it, because you want to have that difficulty, but you need to have times when other people are tumbling as well. Even if it's a cartwheel or a round off, which is something that I think everybody should have. So really work towards your squads having at least that. Have them do a running round off all together at some point. Have them do a running or a standing round off or a cartwheel at some point. Use even those little skills to get 1 or 2 points as opposed to 0 points. I used to be ashamed to put anything less than like a round off or a round off back handspring in a routine, but I am not ashamed anymore. You get those points any way you can because it's on the score sheet and other teams are doing it, so you need to make sure that you're doing it too. And you need running tumbling and standing tumbling. So you'll see there's 5 points for each. They're worth the same, so you want to have a balance of both in there. And the more people that do them all together, the better it is for your score. Then you have jumps. And here you just get one category, execution and difficulty, 5 points. So you see in the long run, jumps isn't worth all that much, and we put a lot of emphasis on them, but it's because it's great on a sideline. Jumps are really helpful in cheers and all of that, but when it comes to a competition, they're not worth a ton. So you want to make sure that you're focusing on them in order to get the stunt, in order to get your points, by doing difficult ones or adding in creative transitions or creative ways to start your jump sequences. You can add difficulty not only through the jumps with your approaches and also with adding some spinning elements or something like that to make it a little more creative. But again, execution is also a part of it. If you all have really low pikes, because they're grouped together, you decide to do a pike and nobody has a level 1, then you're probably not going to get a good score because they don't separate them here. They're not going to give you points for the difficulty but take away points for the execution. They just won't give you points. So make sure that you're paying attention there. And dance. Another thing that cheerleaders love to do is dance, but when it comes to your actual scores, it's not worth a lot either. Just like jumps, it's only worth 5 points. So you want to make sure that you have something that you can do well, but also has some creative and fun elements in it that will help boost your difficulty score a little bit. Again, because they're grouped together, if you can't get it together and you can't get it to look good, take away the more difficult things, the ripples and the spins and the changing of formations and things like that that you can add that can make a difference. And sometimes it's easier to put those things in than it is to get, 15 girls to do the exact same thing, look the exact same way at the exact same time. So I understand that too. So if it's easier to have 2 groups of girls doing 2 different things that sort of look alike, or that at least coordinate, not necessarily look alike, then you might be able to max out your score. So it really depends on how good of dancers your team is. And then at the end, you just get this little splash fund of 10 points for the overall effect. And I mean, And here's the thing. When it comes to judging, it's a little bit subjective. Yes, there are harder stunts than other stunts. There are harder jumps than some other jumps. There's more difficult tumbling than some other items. Obviously, your cartwheels and your roundoffs are at the bottom of the barrel, and your full twisting layouts are at the top. But every judge is going to look at them a little bit differently. They know that a well-executed full is a 10, but everything else below that is kind of up to them. So you're really looking at that. And so then they build in this overall effect score to kind of just let the judges give their impression of the routine. And it's worth 10 points. So it's worth as much as your jumps and dance combined. And what I think they're really looking for in the overall effect is they want to see the creativity of your choreography. They want to see that you left a good impression, that you did skills that you're good at, and you did them well. And this is also kind of your spirit and your performance factor. This is kind of the it factor. You can't really tell exactly what a judge is going to judge on, but it's going to be sort of the overall feel and look of the routine. So with these two scores, you get 65 points for a music portion and 35 points for a cheer portion. Obviously, these will be a little different if you're only doing a cheer portion as a school, but altogether it's 100 points, and then they add them up, and that's how they get the different scores for people. So just be sure that before you do any kind of competition routine or go to a new competition, that you check out their score sheets, because it's going to help you prepare to be most successful at those events. So even if you go to an NCA competition and a UCA competition, you want to make sure you consult both score sheets, because there may be some changes you can make from one routine to the other to maybe bump up your scores in different places. So it's crucial to understand your score sheets before, during, and after, even as you evaluate your year and your routines for your sorry, for your choreography. I totally blanked out there. So if you ever hire a choreographer for your competition routine, make sure that they ask for your score sheets, because it's important. They're gonna need to know. And if they don't ask, then you need to give it to them anyway. So I hope that this was helpful and that you find that you are more successful this competition season because you consulted a score sheet. Thanks for joining me for more great information about cheerleading. Whether it's choreography or leadership or even a little bit of technique, check out kateboydcheerleading.com.